Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is a long one. We are using lots of products from Crafty Meraki, the Rose Rhapsody, the Peony Parade, Orchid Opulence, and what's the last one? Passion Posies. But we're going to be making a lot of cards. Here I'm just showing you that these ones, the orchids and the posies, also have sentiments with them. And so when you stamp them, you also get the sentiments at the same time. So those are the sentiments we'll be using for today's 4 cards. So the way that these stamps are is almost like you have to treat them like a background stamp because they are one piece. So here, even though I have a sticky mat, I'm also taping down my paper just because my sticky mat's a little well loved. I probably need to wash it, but also because these are a very large photopolymer stamp, they are very sticky, so it can pull up your paper. So in addition to my magnet and my sticky mat, I'm also taping down the side, and this is how I stamped all 4 of these, but I'm only going to show you this one because there's so much to fit into this video. That showing you all 4 was just like kind of redundant and wasn't worth the time, I guess. So I checked to make sure there were no air bubbles. You always want to do that with larger stamps. I have a whole video on stamping larger stamps if you're interested in that. And then I'm inking up with, what am I using? Intense black ink from Hero Arts. You just want to use something that's going to be safe for alcohol markers. If that is how you are choosing to color yours, that is how I am choosing to color mine today. So you just want to be really thorough, make sure that you're inking up everything. I did stamp all of mine twice because these are the first times that I'm stamping these stamps, and so they aren't seasoned or conditioned at all. But 2 times got me where I needed to be, and like I said, I did this with all 4 of them, and then here they are. The only image we're not going to be using is on the Perfect Posies, that large heart wreath. We're not going to be using that one at all. We are going to get directly into the coloring. Now, I know that this video title talks about using press and seal with die cuts, and I promise you that we are going to get there, but first I have to color the images to turn them into die cuts so that we can talk about the tips and tricks to arrange them and things that we can help, that will help make us more successful with our larger floral arrangements, or any arrangements. I just happen to be using flowers. So for the peony, almost all the peonies I'm pretty sure all of the peonies in the set are more closed. So going in and adding my shading, these ones where they're closed upon each other can really kind of be a challenge because you don't have a lot of real estate, especially in the center. So these outer petals are a little bit easier to color. The ones in the center, you do want to make sure you're not super heavy-handed. You want to add a little bit of dark, but you also want to make sure that you're leaving the tips white enough for you to have a highlight, because that's what's going to create your separation. These 2 on the end here in the set, they are drawn or they are colored as leaves. I chose not to color them as leaves. And you know, I love that Crafty Meraki always has colored images. And the images are colored by some of like my favorite people. Brenda is a good example. I met her in real life. I've known her online for quite some time. She's a lovely woman and a wonderful colorist, and she does some of the coloring. So if you're new to coloring, they're really great to have as a guide to just look on the back of the package. It's on the back of the stamps and the back of the dies. But if you are somebody who is a little bit more confident in your coloring and you don't want to get inspiration from there, that's okay too. You can always do your own thing. So I'm only going to show you one of each. Here you can see how they were colored to be leaves. Now the leaves that we're going to do down here, I'm going to color those differently as well, because the way that they are colored, this 3 strand is for that bottom left part to be an open area, but I'm actually going to color it so that it looks like the leaf is turned on itself, just to give me some more green, because these are kind of long, thinner leaves. And so when I put them in my arrangements, I want to get the most, kind of like the most bang for my buck. So I just made them to be a little more solid. That's all. Now, there's no right or wrong way. For the roses, I chose to go with yellow. Yellow roses are one of my favorite flowers, and mine are going to be more on the kind of golden side. But here we have, again, a flower that is kind of a lot of heavy layers. This one is a bit more open. The only thing really here to note is the style of illustration that is like these flowers are drawn in doesn't have any added shading areas, which means basically it's entirely up to you how you want to add the shading. You will see me when I'm going in with my darkest color adding a little bit of shading lines. Here in this one in the forefront, I'm adding one kind of up. This one on the right, I'm adding a line that kind of curves to the right-hand side. Those lines just help give your larger petals just some directionality. They add to the overall shading by helping shape the flower, and that's what your shading should do. It should give dimension and should help add shape. So that's why I include those in there. And then for this particular color combination, this is kind of like my go-to for yellows. But you do want to make sure that you're going over the E99 and the YR24 with the Y08 to help make them a little bit more on the yellow side and a little less on the brown side. So anyway, while we watch me color, let's do a little bit of chatting, a little bit of fun. Well, before I get into that, if you're looking for the just the press and seal hack, you're like, I don't care nothing about your coloring, lady. I just want to know the tips for the press and seal. It's like at the 19-minute mark. I know it's a long video. I hope you brought popcorn because it's a long one. We're making 4 cards. These types of stamps lend themselves really well to making a lot of cards, so I figured there was no reason not to. And then I try to, you guys know if you watch my videos, I try to leave as much as I can in, even if that means I have to speed it up, because you can always use the tools that YouTube offers to slow it down. Now, I'm going to sound hysterical, but you would still be able to slow it down and see it in slow-mo, in real time, just a little less fast than the way that I'm showing it to you. But I do have a super fun giveaway. So if you guys watched my video a couple of weeks ago, Crafty Meraki is doing a virtual retreat. It's called Card Maker Connect, and it is free, but you can purchase the, what are they calling it, a kit? And so you can purchase that kit and craft along with us. Right now, originally it's sold out, but then they brought it back on a pre-sale. So like you can, purchase it. And there is a coupon code for, it's like $110 off or something. It's a very good coupon code. I'll link it below. But anyway, they are also very nicely, very generously allowing each of the teachers for the class to do a giveaway. And so that's what we are going to do today, because honestly, I should have done it before now and I completely forgot about it. So that is my bad. My apologies. Life's been a little overwhelming lately. So in order to be, to enter in to win, you're gonna like the video, subscribe, and then you can leave a comment. And in your comment, I would like to know, I want to know what your favorite flower is. How about that? Because I told you my favorite is calla lilies, with a second being yellow roses. So I would like to know what your favorite flower is. So if you want to be entered to win, just comment and tell me what your favorite flower is. So here I chose to do the orchids purple. With orchids, their centers are yellow. So I chose to do purple because yellow and purple are complementary colors and they look very nice together. It's also why orchids are so striking. They also have some that are more on like the pink side, or the white. They come in a lot of different colors, but I like the pink or the purple ones because I think that they're more striking against that yellow center. And you tend to see these, I think, more around like Easter, like springtime, because once they flower, that's it. Like they flower and then that's all she wrote. I'm not sure if they will flower again the next year, but I know for that season they're done because I've owned them. And And then that's it. But to be fair, I have a bit of a black thumb. My poor plants, like this is the place where they come to die. I only have 2 right now. And the Monstera I've actually grown since it was a baby. But the only reason that poor guy is still alive is just because they are such a robust plant. Like you can literally neglect them for weeks, and I have, and they will still be alive and kicking. That's the only reason why that one's there. And what is the other one? The other one is, I think, one of those ones you're supposed to feed with ice cubes, which you can do orchids that way too, that my son picked out when we were at the store one time, and it's never flowered. I have my first ever bud on it. And I've had it for like 2 years. I have my first ever bud. But I think those are another ones that like once they flower, then they're done. I'll have to look it up and see what it is. But anyway, those are the only 2 that have managed to survive. So here I did, in the suggested coloring for the orchids, they made all of those little buds green. I decided to add some purple in there, just for, just a little bit more color. These ones, the posies, there's no greenery in this set. And I'm pretty sure it's because all of these flowers, like the extra flowers that you see me coloring here, you can actually cut and pop up over the heart. Like they're in the heart as well. But I'm not using them that way. I'm just using them as an accent flower. So I chose pink, purple, orange, and yellow because I thought that they would work really nicely together. And I knew I was going to keep my backgrounds pretty simple. We're just going to do some ink blending and some spattering. I know that that's not everybody's, bag, but that's totally fine. If you don't like the spattering, don't do it. Or if you don't like the ink blending, don't do it. Put them on a different background. But this was just nice and simple for me to get a couple of cards that I can use as birthday cards. So here they are, all colored up. All of the images are colored, except for, like I said, that heart, because I'm not going to be using it this time around. However, the dies, because the stamp is one stamp, the die is one die. So when you put the dies down, you'll be able to cut them all out at one time, which is really nice. I happen to enjoy that. And then if you're just making one card, you could just tuck them back into, the packaging or an craft envelope that you keep them in. So I saw no reason not to stamp the heart for the posies, because I'll just tuck it in there and I'll use it for another card another time. So we're going to go through and we are going to die cut all of these out. Now here I've kind of gone through and prearranged my florals. This is just like the end of me figuring out how this one on the left is going to go. And then you can see all of my sentiments up top. So this is going to give us 4 cards. 2 of them have the orange flowers, 2 of them do not. And then one of them is missing the purple. But I have these 4. I've just taken my piece of press and seal and I've cut it into 4 pieces. And then this way I can go and lay my piece of press and seal, kind of brush it with my finger, and then pick them up as one full piece. Now, nothing is adhered yet. However, this does give me the opportunity to pick them up as one piece, and then I can lay them over each of my created backgrounds until I find the one that I want each background to go with. So it's just really nice, especially if you're not married to like your background or you're not sure what you're doing, and maybe you just have some florals that you colored up another time and now you want to turn them into a card. This is a really great way to put them together and have them stay together, because if you guys know me, you know that I don't love fussy pieces and chasing around fussy pieces. So moving them as a whole piece is something that really makes my heart happy and makes my crafting much more enjoyable. So I did speed this up so much to do the backgrounds, because I wanted you to be able to see them, but each of them kind of fades off to white. So there's lots, because my sentiments are black and white, remember? So I knew that I was going to have to keep that in mind. So there's 2 that I do on a diagonal. There's 2 that I do kind of either top to bottom or bottom to top, depending on how you look at it. Blue I view as a neutral, so that's why I chose this one. I chose my blues, and I do all of my ink blending twice because I feel like that gives me a better blend. I am using the Trinity Stamps Blending Buddies. These are my favorite for putting down lots of color really quickly. And so I just chose like the same kind of colors that I would like normally do. There's, with one exception of that, I tried a new combination, and quite honestly, I didn't love it. So you're going to see me change that as well. Because honestly, not everything that we try can be, you know, a home run. So, but it's good. It doesn't mean that it's not good to still experiment. So here I did a lot of yellow greens in my greenery, so I knew that that would look nice. Plus, yellow green is pink's complement, and we obviously have those pink peonies in there. So that's going to work really nicely with that, you know, to kind of play off of each other. Same thing with the blue and the orange, they're complements. This one, I did kind of more of a, like analogous colors with the colors that I chose for the flowers. So there isn't a green or a blue to contrast it like we did with the complementary colors. Instead, we're doing colors that we already seen. So we're just repeating those same analogous colors. And this works really nicely for a background as well. Even if, let's say you decided you were going to do like purple, blue, and pink flowers, and you could do your backgrounds in the same colors and they would look nicely together. So purple in the right-hand corner, and then I chose yellow because it would be the easiest one to fade off into white. So that's how I picked the color scheme for this one. And this one, I know I will use one of the arrangements that has all 4 colors in it. This is the one that I tried that I was like, nah, it's not for me. But it's not that it's not pretty, because it is. I like the color that we end up with at the end. But with the floral arrangements, it kept giving me like under the sea vibes, like underwater vibes. And I was clearly not making underwater cards. I mean, not that there aren't beautiful like coral things, or seaweed or whatever that you couldn't put under the water. I'm sure it would be a great background for something else. But for my florals, I just was not digging it. And I think where we went amiss was adding that mowed lawn, because I end up with this kind of dark minty color. I don't know. I just didn't love it. But I wanted to make sure that I saw it through the whole process so that you guys could see how I got from one to the other. So this is all 4 backgrounds. This is obviously before we fixed it. I am going to spatter on just some clean water, and then I'm also going to spatter on a mixture of Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearl and some water. Perfect Pearls bind with water, so when you splatter those on, they're going to stay where you put them. I also played around with the idea of doing gold, but I decided to stick with the traditional Perfect Pearls because I didn't want to have to stamp new sentiments in gold. Like, I like my stuff to be matchy-matchy. I'm not going to pretend like I don't. So this is the one that I ended up not loving. So my first attempt at fixing it, and yes, I'm going right, like those spatters are dry, I'm going right over the Perfect Pearls, was to add more blue. So I added the Mermaid Lagoon, and then I added some Uncharted Mariner, and then I checked it again, and it was still giving me like underwater vibes. Which I liked that combination too. It's like a darker teal. It's still pretty, but not for what I wanted. So now I'm going to go in with the greens, and I did extend the green out a little bit, and then went in with the mowed lawn and the rustic wilderness, and this gave me like a deeper, richer green, and it does still like tend on the blue side, but it matched my leaves so much better, and I think that is really what made the difference. So once I confirmed I was happy with it, then I went ahead and blended it out the second time. And because I had gone over top of it, a lot of the, not the Perfect Pearls, like though they are tinged green now because I went over top of them, but the bleach spots were gone from the water. So I did go in and do those a second time. And now here we are finally to the point of the video. Welcome. So first things first, when you're using press and seal, I find the hinge method to be the easiest method. So you want to tape down your cardstock. Make sure you're putting your tape in a place that you don't need to adhere anything. And then you're going to, on the left-hand side or right, whichever one you prefer, you're going to use your bone folder or your finger to really heavily burnish down the side of your press and seal. And this is going to create a hinge like a door. I did another video about this a couple years ago, and it's not my idea. I actually learned it from my friend Dawn. So this one is all going to be one layer. So once you have that hinge created, then you're going to add glue to anything that is on the top when you flip it open, because that's the part that's on the bottom when you close the door. So my leaves are going to be the furthest part into the background. And then from there, you're just going to keep adding your pieces. So when you flip your door open, whatever piece that you can see all of, and sometimes it may be multiple pieces, whatever piece that you can see all of, you can add glue to, close it, make sure that it's adhered well. Like here, I'm going to be able to do one of the roses and my orchids at the same time because the overlap is so minimal that they're both still going to stick. And each time I'm just kind of pressing, I'm giving it a second to dry. If it's not dry or it's not sticking, then I can hold it with my hand and open the door that way. If you have any areas that overlap, you do want to make sure that you're double checking that they're adhered fully. So, you may have to go in and do a little bit of gluing, and we'll talk about that some more in our next one. But basics of using press and seal as a door hinge: tape your paper, burnish it down on the side that you want it to open to, and then you're just going to add whatever your adhesive is as you go in layers. So now it overlaps just a little bit. I'm going to put just a little bit more glue, and then this piece is, the flowers are completely adhered. I can get rid of the tape. I can get rid of the press and seal. But I am going to tell you that this part I'm going to show you in just this card, because again, we're running low on time. We're already 20 minutes in. So I started to put on the sentiments, and again, I was just adhering these flat when I realized that I needed to blend in my die cuts. Not everybody is going to feel the need to do this. Some people don't mind the white on die cuts. I don't love it. So I typically do blend it into my background. And all that means is I just find alcohol markers that are similar colors, and it's not always the same because everybody's ink blending is not the same. For this one, I think I ended up using like BG10, BG02, BG05, I think I used for the blue. But then any areas where they're laying on top of each other, like here, the roses on top of the orchid, I'm filling that in purple as well. So any point where you can see that white outline, I'm just filling in that white outline with whatever color is behind it. And then that will help them to blend together and look more cohesive. Again, this is a me thing. It might not be a you thing, and that's totally fine. So I had to do it before I did my sentiments because I was worried I was going to bump those white sentiments on accident with one of my markers, and then I would have a problem. So here, these are adhered down flat, and then we are going to move on to the next card. This card, you can see I'm already like not following my own instructions. Isn't that the best? So I'm burnishing the side, but I forgot to tape down my paper, and you're going to see that ends up becoming a problem for me. So make sure you are taping it down. With this one, we're going to do a multi-tiered effect. So anything, again, that I can see all of, I'm going to add glue to. For me, that's 2 of my orange flowers and 1 of the kind of orchid buds up at the top. And then I can open this up. But as you can see, because I did not tape it down, every time I'm kind of trying to lift the press and seal, I'm kind of moving my paper just a little bit. There I had to trim off the stem because it would have stuck out from underneath the peony. So as I'm going through and doing this, these ones right here, these kind of supporting flowers are flat, as well as the orchid, because it just fills up that kind of right-hand corner. Then from there, you can still see how much that card is moving around, and it's because I didn't tape it. So please make sure you're using some low-tack tape to tape them down. In order to do this as one piece, I am going to just lift up the area that overlaps the peony and add some glue. And then here's where I'm like, you need to tape it. And it's too late. It's already moved. That rose needs to be just a little bit further to the left. So I can take it off of the press and seal, get it where I need it to be, and then pick it up again with the press and seal. If it's a bunch of little layers. But since I've already glued mine together, I'm not even going to bother using the press and seal. I'm just going to add my foam tape. You absolutely 100% can add the foam tape while it is on the press and seal, and that will still work, and you'll see that in our next card. So now that I have the foam tape on everything, I can go ahead and remove that adhesive backer and then put it down where it needs to go. And then this will finish off this card. You'll see I'm going to go in, and with all of these, I do blend them into the background, but that's, once again, I feel like I keep saying that. It's not something you have to do. You know that. It's your card, right? Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. One thing to note about the sentiment on this one, because I want it to lay flush on top of the flowers that I've popped up, anything that's hanging over into the background area, I do have to add foam tape to in order for it to sit on top of the areas I need it to sit on top of. So adding it to like the birth part of day, and then just the H in happy, because that's really all that overhangs, and then liquid glue on the other side works just as well. For this one, I'm going to remember my tape. Yay. And then I'm going to do the same thing, burnishing that down on the left-hand side to become my little door hinge. And then this one we're going to do all with foam tape. So we're going to pop up all of the elements on the same level. That's something that's really important to know. If you want to pop them up all on the same level, you have to put your foam tape down in a way that's going to hold them all together. So you need to be adding your foam tape not to individual flowers, but to the piece as a whole, so that it is holding them all together. That way, when you flip it over, you're not going to lose any pieces, and your card is not going to come apart. So here, I'm going to flip it over. It's all as one piece. I'm going to smooth that out to make sure that my foam tape is adhered, and then I can remove the press and seal. Then I'm going to start checking to see if there's any areas that were so far overlapped that they need a little bit of glue, and really there were only 2 spots. So again, just double checking that everything isn't going to come, isn't going to move. And then that one is done. This one, we're going to do the foam tape again, but we're going to do it with multiple layers. So I just wanted to give you kind of all of the options that I could possibly think of. And so with this one, we are going to do some pieces just flat. And that's typically going to be our greenery and like our supporting flowers. So like our little buds, those are going to be adhered down flat with just the glue. And then this one, see how this came off of the press and seal? Sometimes that happens if it's the piece that is closest to the hinge. So you can put it back in place like I just did there, or you can just remove it and glue it itself. But only do that if you're confident about where it goes. Because if you're not confident about where it goes, you may end up unhappy with your placement in your overall arrangement. So now that we have those supporting actors kind of down with our glue, now I'm going to use some lower profile foam tape. And in this case, these ones happen to be rounded. And for the orchids, I'm going to do 1 layer of foam tape. You can cut these to be, to fit however you need. But so the orchids are going to be popped up with 1 layer of this foam tape. Going to remove all of those. I really like these ones because they each have a little tabby, and then the orchids will go down. Then we're going to open the door back up, and for the rose, we're going to do 2 levels. And so this is going to raise it up above the orchid, and then, 2 levels above. In order to do that, I'm going to have to put 2 of these on the side that will be on the ground, and 1 of them on the side that will sit on top of the orchid. Because remember, the orchid already has 1 layer. So we're just adding a second layer, and then the ground has no layers, so I have to add 2 there. For the final peony, the top layer peony, this one's going to get 3, where it touches our card base, which happens to be a bit lower on the flower. And so I'm going to do 3 on top of there, and then the rose already has 2. and the peony has the 1. So I double checked it to make sure the part that is touching the rose is the part that we're putting the 2 layers of foam tape, plus we're getting the benefit of the foam tape that's already under the rose. And then this one is a 3-tier stacked. You can see it from the side, that each level sits above the next one. So that one's really fun. I typically only do that for cards that would be hand delivered though, because mailing those is going to be challenging. You would definitely have to get them hand canceled. So now that all of these are on and the sentiments are on, I am going to add my rhinestones. And I did this for all of them. I used the same ones. These are the Meraki Sparkle Magic crystal rhinestones. They're like a really good neutral because they look all different kinds of colors. And then this is all of the cards completed. So I hope that you learned some ways that maybe you could be, successful with any kind of arrangements with the press and seal. Please don't forget to leave your comment below to enter in the giveaway. And I'll keep that open until, why don't we go with Friday? So that would be the 28th. The 28th. We're going to close it on the 28th. All right. Thank you guys so much. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.